possible, and that this will be a fruitful session that all could benefit from. Just continue talking a bit so we ensure that they are hearing us. So just give me the thumbs up when we're good to go. Yeah. We know that protected agricultural structures, hydroponic systems, one of the more sought after technologies within the region. We've seen it as one of the modalities in terms of climate resilience, as one of the areas in which we could attract a large number of youths, and also one that could make significant gains as it relates to increasing production and productivity, as well as reducing the impact of the natural environment. Of course, there are pros and cons that come with the utilization of these technologies, and not in every instance you do benefit from those aspects of what the technology is sought for. And so I expect that some of these will be dealt with today, of course, from a perspective of the greenhouse technology that is proliferating across the region. I know that there may be concerns as it relates to heat buildup, there may be concerns as it relates to resilience to strong winds, especially that of hurricanes, and of course, how we can mitigate against that. I know that Guyana has looked at open side shade houses. I know that other persons have ventured into container production as well, shipping container production. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that we could learn from you, and I hope that there's a lot that you can learn from us as well. And as we seek to enter into what is the technical part of today's session, that there will be a lot on offer for all of us. Yeah?
Hello.
Right. So,
Hello.
not wanting to delay too much further, for those of you who would have been privy to the agenda, we have quite a few speakers today that will address us. I will just give you an overview of the presenters, but I'll give you their background as they come up to do their presentations. So today we have Melvin Medina from FAO. We have Adana Pigot, and she's based out of Trinidad and Tobago more specifically, and she is with us online. We have Christina Pula from CARDI, Barbados to be more specific. We have Donald Jackson with us from CARDI as well, CARDI St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have Fiyaz Shah, CARDI headquarters based out in Trinidad and Tobago. We have Bronte Tucker, also from CARDI, based right here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And we will be joined by hopefully two farmers to share their experience from St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Richard Paris and Mr. Leon Anthony. So with that, let me begin the introduction for our first speaker, Mr. Melvin Medina. Just a quick background on him. He works with the Sub-Regional Office for FAO for the Caribbean as a plant production and protection officer. He also holds an agronomy and engineering degree. Now, his background is also based in good agricultural practices, and associated with that, developing tools to improve management of pests, pesticides, food safety, among others. Now, as it relates to today's presentation, he has worked in the area of irrigation systems, fertigation systems, plant nutrition, seedlings, seedlings production and crop culture practices, as well as soil system. So he's quite well positioned to speak to us today on the subject at hand. We look forward to hearing what work has the FAO done and their support to the region. And with that, allow me to invite Mr. Melvin Medina to the podium. And we have a roving microphone if you want to walk. That's quite fine. To share with us work done out of the FAO. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Melvin Medina.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and also those joining online. And I think it's a very relevant topic because there are several projects that are being implemented across the region, and as the title says, it's trying to get it right. I really like that because I think it's really very important to learn from previous experiences. So things have been doing not so well in some cases, and very good in some other cases. So I hope that with this we will have a much better idea on the way forward. And thank you. Special thanks to Pius for inviting me to this session. Oh, okay, so I will be speaking about some of the advantages of the protected cultivation systems quickly to set up the background, and then speaking about the different type of designs, the different type of cover materials that are part of the design, and the last one would be about the nutrition management in the hydroponic system. Okay, so why we are investing in these protected cultivation systems, greenhouses or net houses or any type of protection? Because we want to minimize the effect of extreme climate events, right? And, and we also want to have a much better control of different pests and diseases, insects, and fungal bacterial diseases, and also to utilize more efficiently the limited space that we have to grow to grow things, especially in the small islands, to increase the efficiency, the use of land, water, and also sunlight. Uh, there are different type of systems growing in the soil directly. Some of them growing in substrates, some of them growing in hydroponics in water. Also different combinations of covering materials, different types of structures that have been tested in different countries. Um, the protected cultivation systems in general give us the possibility to grow all year round. They increase the productivity, the efficiency use of natural resources, and promoting the high nutrition crops, vegetable crops mainly, and minimizing the use of pesticides and increasing food safety. So we're doing all these things to spray less, and spray less means that we will comply with the food safety standards.
Okay.
Right. So additionally, these systems give us the opportunity to use different type of cultivation systems with soil, without soil, aeroponics, aquaponics, microgreens, or growing in substrates. So we have seen most of the photos that you will see during the presentations that are here from the Caribbean. Grafting techniques, the use of biological control agents when we release these type of agents in a in controlled environment, the efficiency is much higher than releasing them in the open fields. And recycling the nutrient solutions to also to minimize the use of fertilizers. Fertilizers are very expensive, and the use of drip irrigation systems and solar systems. So here in the photo, you can see very clear the advantage of having a small piece of plastic on the roof. This is sweet pepper, the same variety, cultivated at the same time, with the same nutrition program. But the difference is that the plants are more efficient growing inside the small piece of plastic. Why? Because the plants receive a much better quality of plants inside. And uh, here we can see the difference in the open field. The plants have a direct sunlight, which is not the sunlight that the plants need to grow. The plants only need to grow the photosynthetic radiation active radiation. So this is a small range within the full solar spectrum, and the upper leaves make shade to the lower ones. So that means that photosynthesis rates in the open fields are not higher, are lower. While inside a structure, there is diffusion of the lights. That means that all the plants receive more sunlight. So it's more lights and better quality of lights inside. Another advantage is that we minimize the risk of losing our investments. I personally have seen many farmers losing totally the crops in the open fields because of pest diseases. At least in a greenhouse, we should be able to harvest, while in some cases, unfortunately, in the open field, even if we spray a lot of insecticides or fungicides, that this is too much. And some of the limitations, of course, the main limiting factor in north in tropical areas and the lowlands is high temperature. So that is the main limiting factor. And of course, cooling systems are expensive. Efficient cooling systems are expensive. They consume a lot of energy, and they are not too efficient because of high humidity. Uh, and the initial cost of investment, of course, if you want to have a greenhouse, you need to have money. You need to have money to do that. And also the high, when you grow crops in a greenhouse, you need higher skills, right? And you should be understanding that you are not going to work less. In a greenhouse, you are going to be working more because it's very intensive. And some of the requirements are that having a greenhouse means that you should have it, you should be utilizing all year round, because having a greenhouse empty, it means that you are not utilizing your investment properly. When you put a piece of plastic on the roof, you know that you're going to change that piece of plastic after 3 or 4 years or 5 years, depending on the type of plastic. So you know you will have to replace it. So you must cultivate all year round, and also to grow crops that are profitable crops. Right? Some of them are mainly those that give us you continuous harvest. Continuous harvest, because from planting to the first harvest, you need to wait 2 to 3 months. And then after, if you only harvest once, like a crop like in this the photo corn, or any other crop that only harvest one time, then you will have to plant again and wait another 2 3 months, right? Some of the requirements are, of course, there's a very good selection in terms of the persons that are going to be working inside the greenhouse. They have to be very detailed person, and also the supervision is very important. And I know it, from experiences here, from Leeds, that when a farmer he didn't attend the greenhouse during the weekend, then Monday when he went there, everything was there. because of there wasn't the power was off, and without electricity, the plants didn't receive water during the weekend, and they were almost dying when he arrived on Monday. The place where we are going to set up the greenhouses is also very important. We not necessarily need to have hurricanes. If we set up the greenhouse in a place that is very prone to heavy winds, those it doesn't matter if it is wood or metal, and they can be totally damaged or destroyed. So the location is important as well because we want sunlight as much as possible. Sunlight is the main source of energy for the plants to grow. With more sunlight, more photosynthesis, more energy production for the plants to grow. So we need to set up the greenhouse in a place that we're going to receive enough sunlight. Because also we don't pay for the sunlight; it's free. And water availability is important. Water will tell us, your water source will tell you what area you need to grow. Don't, because I've seen sometimes cases that we do the opposite. We first buy the greenhouse or we set up the farm in a way that then we don't have enough water. So just for you to consider, because a tomato plant or a sweet pepper plant and adults is going to consume that at around 2 liters per plant per day. So based on that, you can make your calculations if you have enough water to grow the area that you intend to grow. These are some of the factors that affect the production directly. And I think it's important before we speak about the designs. Well, the first one is the climate. The climate with a temperature of 43 degrees inside the greenhouse and in a humidity of 29%, those plants are not going to grow very well. But that's I took this photo in Jamaica. So it happens, and what happens is that you will start to see the deficiencies. In this case was calcium deficiency because of the transpiration. The transpiration stops. Then the absorption of some of the nutrients will also stop. Right? So also pests and diseases, viruses, whiteflies, mites. All these photos are taken from plants that are cultivated inside the greenhouse. So having a greenhouse doesn't mean that you're not going to have pests and diseases. You need to take care of the plants as you do in the open fields, sampling, monitoring, to make sure that you can do something to control them or to prevent them even themselves with a very close supervision. Irrigation is also very important to make sure that the irrigation system works perfectly. Otherwise, we will be speaking about fertigation soon, but if my irrigation system is not working well, then the nutrition that the plants are going to receive through the fertigation system are also going to suffer. So water management and nutrition management are both the same importance because, well, we will see that soon. In cultural practices, as I was telling you, the correct variety, right? Some farmers, they grow determinate tomatoes inside the greenhouse. My suggestion is to using determinate varieties that you can harvest 6 months if you want. The plant density, record keeping, pruning, lowering the plants or indeterminate weed controls. But all these things are just to for you to know that you will need to work more. Uh, and then the plant nutrition, right? So once we have all this type of, we have controlled all these factors and the nutrition, it is important, right? We will see about the nutrition soon. So in summary, the protected cultivation systems offers a very good option, right? But we need to know that we need to manage very well climate, cultural practices, plant nutrition, and the irrigation to make sure that we are going to get high yields. In terms of the designs now, with the design we have many methods. So which one is the best? We will see that soon. And some of the considerations to decide which design are number one, the management capabilities, right? So if you don't know how to grow crops properly inside the greenhouse, then why you're going to invest in a greenhouse that is very expensive? We will see some examples. The cost, of course, is important because how much money you have to invest. The climate adaptation is important and the orientation. We will see those factors in more detail because we know that the limiting factor in the Caribbean is high temperatures. Okay, so let's try to do everything possible to address that limiting factor. But in some cases, we are not doing that because we are importing things from countries, from France, sorry to say France, but from Europe, Canada, United States, where they have totally different climate conditions. And we want to install them here in the same way they do there, because they want to do there is to keep the heat inside and extend the winter. What we need here is totally the opposite. Technology management versus management. This gentleman here, he was my farmer in my country. As you can see, the greenhouse was very simple, very low cost, combination of wood and bamboo. Okay. But this gentleman here was able to harvest 27 pounds of tomato in a crop cycle. So he made a lot of money with very low cost. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's not about the high-tech greenhouse. The high-tech greenhouse is not going to give you high yields. The high yields are going to come when you do everything right, when you cultivate the crop. And okay, there are different type of designs. We will see the photos. Straight roofs, like the one that I show you, curved roofs, or also span options, like multi-span the greenhouses. Okay, so we're coming from low cost to more expensive type of structures. This is a tunnel type. It's a very popular here. Unfortunately, you cannot grow high crops in this type of structures, and unfortunately, inside is going to be very tough, especially during the hot time, which is 8, 9 months of the year here. So these type of designs are more for other type of climate conditions. We also have net houses. We are going to install some of them in some countries. Countries like Antigua or even here in St. Kitts probably will work because they have low rainfall uh, and by in other islands, high rainfall more. So countries like Barbados, Antigua, St. Kitts have low rainfall. This could be one option to minimize the use of the pesticides. It's working. It's a very popular system in Central America where they have even worse conditions than what you have in the Caribbean. Microtunnels as well, right? So this is a system that so it works mainly to protect the crops that before flowering at least. Because if you get a virus before flowering, then you don't know how to sell it. So this idea is to protect the crop during the first weeks, to be able to keep it healthy without viruses, and then you open it and the crop continue growing. It's in my country, for example. If we don't do this, we will not be able to harvest because we have too much viruses. And you don't have that pressure of viruses here really yet. Shade houses to grow different types of crops. Remember that every single crop has a different sunlight requirement. Some of them, like lettuce, they don't need a lot of sunlight, but crops like tomato, eggplants, they do need a lot. The roof design, this is a basic model, but also we have the other more like a tropical. Tropical, why is tropical? Because it has a vent on the roof. The vent on the roof, it's extremely important to remove the heat because the heat is always going up. The hot air is lighter than the cold, fresh air, cold air. That's why goes up. But if it's trapped in the roof, then we are not utilizing efficiently the natural ventilation that we can have. Okay? So that to me, speaking about the best design for the Caribbean, it has to have a central vent. Okay? I know it's more expensive, yes, it's more expensive than a tunnel site, but it's to me it's a mandatory element in component of any greenhouse that should be installed in the region. We also have other types that are maybe again to protect from heavy rains and areas with a lot of important slopes. Right? Countries like Dominica and Saint Lucia could be adopting these simple low cost systems. Right? And we also have the different type of structures, more expensive. This one here, it was very popular in Jamaica until they realized that this system is not working well. It's not working well because the air it has been proven using models that the hot air is is sorry, the hot air cannot go outside because the fresh air is not allowing the hot air to escape because of that global zenithal vent. So instead of having a cooler temperature inside the greenhouse, is like not doing anything, right? So they realize that now they are not doing it anymore. This one is a more expensive, of course, a motorized vent connected to sensors that of course that will be more and more and more expensive, right? So and we don't need that really because the vent should be open all the time. It's hot all the time, and this is the way it works, right? So this is the Venturi effect, and this is what we should be targeting because cooling systems are very expensive. Forced ventilation systems are very expensive. So we really need to take advantage as much as possible of the natural ventilation to reduce costs and to reduce temperature more efficiently. Okay. But this is important because these photos are all from the Caribbean. We need, in my opinion, we need to come from here to there. Okay. But in some cases, we are going back to here. We will see more photos soon. Okay, plastics. Covering materials are part of the greenhouse. Right? So the plastics are many types of plastics in the market. Many. But we need to try to use the best one that is more adapted to local conditions. And also, we have plastics that have different characteristics. Some of them have anti-dust and anti-dripping. So, and for those, we need to install them correctly because I have seen that sometimes that we install the anti-dust inside and the anti-dripping outside. So that's wrong. So we need to make sure that we install it correctly. And we also are now using this plastic. It's an anti-thermic plastic film. The anti-thermic plastic film is adapted for this type of climate condition. What we have been using forever is a thermic plastic film that they use in North Europe, or the countries in the north, to keep the heat, right? So the anti-thermic plastic film, it's not the solution, but it's part of the solution. It can reduce a little bit the temperature without sacrificing sunlight because we can reduce temperature utilizing shade nets. But with the shade net, the problem is that we are sacrificing sunlight, and sunlight is important for photosynthesis. And so that's why we are promoting this type of plastic now. We are going to install them in some of the islands and get data, utilizing the sensor to make sure that this is the correct plastic. And we have some experience with utilizing it. Yes, Faris? Okay. Right. So again, it's about climate adaptation. Plastic is just one of them, right? So the anti-insect net, anti-insect net is also some part of the design. Which one is the best one for my condition? Well, there are different types. This one is a 35 mesh, and that one is a 50 mesh. What is the difference? The airflow. And the other difference is the protection against some of the insects. Because this one is not going to protect against mites or small insects like small white flies or aphids. Well, it's going to protect other insects. That one is going to protect from all the insects, but the airflow is going to be affected. So which one are you going to choose? If you don't really have a big problem of with insect and viruses, which I think is the case here, then I would prefer to use this one because I don't want to sacrifice my temperature inside. This temperature is the main limiting factor. So we are speaking about two factors. One, the use of anti-tear plastic film, and two, the use of 22 to 25 mesh. And we tried it here and it was very good. This is in St. Kitts in a greenhouse somewhere on the other side of the island. This is 50 mesh and that one is 20, 22, 25 mesh. You can see the big difference. And you can feel it when you are inside the greenhouse. You can feel the breeze hitting you inside. So in terms of adaptation to climate, I would prefer that one, not this one. But we have been installing all the time this one. This is the most popular. And it's to me, it's not the one that you should be using. This is the greenhouse in the St. Kitts, the one on the right side. So you could feel the breeze. It was a very nice temperature. In this greenhouse, we utilized 4 different things. Number one, the anti-thermic plastic film. Number two, the shade nets. Number three, retractable shade net. Number three, the 22 anti-insect nets. And the vents on the roof. So we are speaking about 4 different things that you can do to reduce temperature without sacrificing your pocket. And again, this is recently installed in one country, right? So when we do projects, these days, we still are using this type of design. We should not. We should move from here to that, but we are still doing this. So I hope and I really am glad that CARP is organizing this session. All right, so in terms of nutrition management, well, again, the irrigation program, the irrigation and the nutrition are both together. Why? Because we are feeding the plants through the water. So what we have now is like a soup. What we have in the soup, because the plants they don't eat solid fertilizers. They absorb the nutrients when they are dissolved in water. That's the only way they do it. So we have to make a soup. And in the soup, it's also important the root system. The plants are designed to absorb nutrients utilizing through the roots. That's the only. You cannot feed a plant spray the leaves. It's too much. The amount of nutrients that the plant needs, so it has to be through the roots. So a good farmer is a good roots grower. Roots grower. It's very important. Okay? And to have a very good root system, we also need to consider that the roots need oxygen to breathe. The oxygen also breathe. So we need to have a very good balance between the solid particles, substrates, or whatever it is, the water, and the oxygen. If you grow crops in a hydroponic system, you also need to check your oxygen because especially when you have high temperatures lower oxygen in the water, dissolved oxygen in the water. Right? So those are the things that we need to consider. Balance between these different elements. So what is in the soup? In the soup, we have a lot of different nutrients. Some of them we don't need to provide them. They are coming from the air, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, but we need to provide them. Right. So some of them, when you see the deficiencies, you see the deficiencies first, and the old leaves for some of them, and for others, you see them in the new leaves. This helps you uh, to know more or to guess which type of nutrient is that you have the deficiency. And this is for all crops, all plants. Why? Because some of them nutrients are mobile, some of them are non-mobile. So that helps you to at least to know, oh, I see deficiencies. Okay, I know it's not going to be calcium. I know it's not going to be iron because those are in the new leaves. So for a fertilizer program, we need to know the crop requirements. We need to know the soil analysis or the water analysis if we are growing in hydroponics. We also need to know the type of fertilizers that we are going to be using. Soluble fertilizers are not popular in the end. Well, and that's sometimes a limiting factor because when you want to develop your hydroponic system, your farmers, I've seen farmers importing them directly. They are not available in any agricultural shop. In some cases, the delivery method and the frequency of application. So in the nutritional crop requirements, it depends also what you are growing. There are two different stages, vegetative and reproductive. If you grow lettuce, you don't have the reproductive stage. The lettuce is harvested before flowering, otherwise it's not commercial. Not commercial. No one is going to buy it. So in the case of lettuce, herbs, you don't reach the reproductive stage. But in the case of tomatoes, sweet pepper, yes, we do. We have vegetative stage, and then we have the production of flowers, fruits, seeds that are the babies. But in the case of some other crop, we don't do that. So that also is important when you do your fertilizer program. Because if you don't do that, if you apply something that is not good, this looks like lettuce, but it's not lettuce. This is a cabbage that was not growing well because the fertilizer program was totally wrong. And in the other case here, you can see the two tomato plants inside the same greenhouse because two different varieties need two different nutritional requirements, right? So that's also something that we need to consider. Okay, so I already, okay, then in terms of requirement, this is an example. This is what I was using because it works for me, but it can be something that you could probably use to begin with. This is for tomato, peppers, and cucumbers. Tomato stage 1, tomato stage 2 means tomato vegetative, tomato reproductive stage. Right? So this is everything in minimal. To facilitate the thing, before the use of ppm, part per million was more used, but now these days it's more minimal. It's the same thing. It's just a one step, one formula conversion. So, okay, I wanted to show you this because we are speaking about hydroponics here. And this is a study that I did in Jamaica. I took some water samples from 6 different sources and analyzed the 6 different samples. And this is what I got from the laboratory. Um, the main parameters that you need to analyze to do a very good fertilizer program for hydroponics system, soilless culture in general, are biocarbonates, nitrogen, phosphates, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfates. Because the plants absorb them in this way, right? The plants don't absorb nitrogen. The plants absorb nitrates. Okay, so you got these samples, right? The analysis, the results, and then I use a calculation tool. A calculation tool is a very simple Excel file. Right? You may have now in the internet some of them. It's fine, no problem. But the important is that this calculation tool is going to be based on the water analysis results. That is important because we can also use recipes. Right? Recipes, I have seen farmers using recipes because, yes, okay, they don't know how to do a calculation, fine. And they use recipes that are coming from the supplier. The same supplier that sells the greenhouse, the same company, they give you the recipe. And it works okay. But the problem is that if we don't analyze the water and we don't do this, we will be spending money, maybe. All right, and I will show you some of the findings. This is the nutritive solution. So the calculation code give me this. And this is the final solution. How much of each fertilizer I need to put in grams per liter, and grams per cubic meter, pounds per gallon, pound per 55-gallon drum if I use a stock solution, or if I use a final solution, right? So this is what the farmers need. Okay? But to reach here, you need to analyze your water for hydroponics. Okay? And also include the micronutrients, but macronutrients and micronutrients, right? Iron, manganese, copper, zinc, boron, molybdenum are important. If you don't apply one of these in your hydroponics, the plants are not going to grow well because the water doesn't have any buffer like in the soil. In the soil, yes. In the soil, we have enough of some of these, so we don't have to supply them. Have to follow? Yes. And this is one comparison between the sample number one and the sample number four. The samples that I showed you at the beginning. The farmer using the sample number one was using a lot more calcium than the farmer utilizing the sample number two. You see the difference here. Calcium. Why? Because the water in the sample number four was the content of calcium in the water was much higher. And that calcium is the same calcium that plants need to grow. So if I do my calculations considering the amount of calcium, then I will apply less calcium nitrates. And that I'm going to save money because the plant don't need because I already have it in the water. And that's the main importance to analyzing water. Okay? All right, so that's all from my side. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Melvin Medina. I mean, we went a little bit over time, but I know that the crowd was so engaged that I was hard pressed to stop you. So, yeah, but that's quite okay. I think it's important that we get the information and knowledge across because it's what's going to benefit our farmers and production persons within the all the presenters have gone. But let me take two questions, one from the audience here and one on. So that remain relevant, and we'll proceed with the next presenter. So any questions from the audience here? Just one? Yeah?
Sorry. Hello. Hello? Yeah.
Any question?
So I'm not saying the best I can. You know, I have just a quick, just one remark and one question. And Guadeloupe, of course, we try to improve that. But in fact, at the end of the story, when you distribute it, it's, because they get their greenhouses subsidized. When you subsidize greenhouses, you can buy one greenhouses for 500, well, 500 euros when it costs 2,000 euros. They buy them, they start with them, and use most of them. So 1 year they abandon because they don't have the techniques. You see? And in fact, in Guadeloupe, I may know 5 growers who have still greenhouses when we have installed so many greenhouses. Now, you are telling us that it's very simple to make solution. Oh, very simple. It's for you, it's not so simple. I am lucky, I have a program that quite the sun, so it's easy, you enter your data, that you must have been about the images if you want to and so on. You will bring it to production. That's significant, to some sort of thing. But the program, one more time, I am the only one in Guadeloupe having that program. So it will be very kind of hard for every country to master the technique. And especially the support that the farmers need. Because it's not an easy technique for very complicated. Also, it's better to install a greenhouse in the mountain. The few that I know, over there, at 200, 300 meters, if you are too low, as you were saying, it's too hard for the greenhouses. And from the greenhouses adapted to the farm.
No, I fully agree with you, and I know it's not easy calculation, but once you use it, it becomes easy. Yeah, but we need to organize trainings and go through the process.
All right, thank you so much for the question and the response. I don't believe we have any questions online when last I checked, 2 minutes ago. So we'll take one more question from the audience and we'll go right into the next presentation.
Thank you for the very informative presentation. It was great. So there are a couple of companies out there that claim that they can provide hurricane-proof greenhouses. Of course, we are potentially heavily affected. So what is your opinion on that? Can you give us some recommendations?
I don't think is a structure that can survive a category 5, number one. Number two, the price that you're gonna pay for those are gonna be very, very expensive. I prefer to invest very low and lose everything. But losing a big investment is going to really hurt me. That's my opinion.
All right, thanks so much. So let's push on right ahead. With the next presenter, we have Ms. Adana Pigot, who is an agronomist as well as a farmer who engage in production utilizing a range of production systems, but for the purposes here, they will focus on the greenhouse. Now, Ms. Adana Pigot is based out of Trinidad and Tobago more specifically, so she'll be joining us online today. So we look forward to her presentation. She would have worked at CARI at one point in time, at one various incarnation, and she would have also worked with the Ministry of Agriculture out of Trinidad and Tobago. So she would have had quite a bit of exposure to production and production systems, and now she's currently engaged as a producer on her own, utilizing greenhouses as a production system. With all that said, we want to welcome Ms. Adana Pigot to deliver her presentation, and we welcome her with a hearty round of applause, despite not being able to hear her. Please, Adana.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Alvarez. Thanks for that introduction. One correction, I never worked with the Ministry of Agriculture, but my stint at CADI gave me a lot of exposure. So I'm going to jump right in because I know you all are pressed for time. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So basically, I was asked to give some insight into my experience as a tomato producer under semi-protected structures in Tobago. And I just wanted to start with giving a little overview as to what exists on the island. We have a variety of structures covered with either plastic or shade cloth, and they all have open sides. At the start of the technology introduction in Tobago, persons actually used insect screens, but that proved to be a little bit difficult to produce under because the temperatures under the structure were hot. The structures comprise of split arch, single arch structures, gable roof, and tunnels, and the sizes range between 60 square meters to 420 square meters. They are primarily used for the production of tree crops, persons who sell flowers, or persons who are in the ornamental horticulture industry, they have a few structures. And then, of course, vegetable production, the tomatoes, sweet peppers, assorted herbs, and some lettuce as well. I am located on the western end of Tobago, which, for those of you who are familiar with Trinidad and Tobago, well, Tobago specifically, is closer to the airport. The soils in the open field range from heavy clays to loams. We have less rainfall on that side of the island, and the terrain is flat, which makes it more amenable to the erection of a greenhouse. My structure is about 204 square meters, so it's pretty small. Split arch, galvanized pipe with a 3-meter gutter height and covered with 6 mil greenhouse plastic. The floor was prepared by bringing in what we call backfill sand, spread, compacted, and covered with ground cover. I use 3-gallon pots. Some persons use 5-gallon, but the 3-gallon works well for me. And the medium I use would be coir. I fertigate using injector pumps, dosatran, and pressure compensated emitters at a rate of 4 liters per hour. I have a trellising system, and I enclose the sides with 19 millimeter bird netting because we have a serious bird problem here in Tobago. So if you look at the picture on the bottom right, it gives you a sense as to how I set up my 3-gallon pots, which would basically be in double rows. And the plants usually have around 0.3 square meters of production space. I would usually charge you the medium 2 days prior to transplanting, and the seedlings would be transplanted 21 days after sowing. I would usually use indeterminate varieties, hybrid 61, which is popularly used in the open field, which is a high-yielding Roma type from Seminis, and Maldini and Bomelo, which are varieties from Rixwan, and they're not very readily available in Trinidad. But Maldini is Roma, high-yielding and firm like hybrid 61 is, and Bomelo is a beefsteak or slicing type. As mentioned before, I have 2 dosatran injector pumps, and I set them at a rate of 1 to 100 with using 2 30-gallon stock tanks. I would usually use calcium nitrate in stock tank A and magnesium sulfate and 41837 in stock tank B. I think this is probably the easier option. Complete fertilizers make fertigating a little simpler, while you have less flexibility than using the simpler fertilizers, as Mr. Medina pointed out. I guess this is probably a bit of the lazier route to use. So I would Depending on the stage of the crop, I would have a range of 1.5 to 2.5 millisiemens per centimeter. In the growing stage or the seeding stage, sorry, I would tend to stay closer to the 1.5 range, and then during the growing stage, somewhere around 2, and during the reproductive stage or the fruiting stage, I will stick over somewhere around 2.5 to 2.8 millisiemens per centimeter. So obviously I would have a meter that would measure pH and electrical conductivity, and I would measure the footigate going in and try to measure the footigate going out. And during the life of the crop, I would give, depending on the age, 1 to 2.5 liters. Obviously, the higher amount would be given at the reproductive stage. I try to footigate over 6 sessions. You don't want to give too much nutrients in any one session because you will overwhelm the plant, and of course you would waste footigate. I try to give the first feed-in within 1 hour of sunrise and give the last feed-in way before sunset, because you would want to ensure that the plants are well fed and the medium is not too wet going into the cooler part of the day. Depending on the prevailing weather conditions, I may do some adjustment. Of course, when there is more cloud cover, I would reduce the number of sessions. So I have timers and solenoids zone the greenhouse and irrigate accordingly. Pruning and trellising are very important activities. If you look at the photo there, you see I have some of the roller hooks. I would actually remove suckers from the first week, at least I try to, and I will prune in the morning. Pruning in the morning would allow the wound to heal before sunset or before sundown, which would mean that you have the introduction of or increase the likelihood of having bacteria and fungal attack if the wound doesn't heal before it's cool. I would also prune the lower leaves as the plant gets older. Trellising will begin 2 weeks after transplanting, and basically we would run straining wire at the top of the crossbars. I don't know if you've seen them here, and at a height of approximately 2.5 meters. Use plant clips to secure the plant onto the trellising string every 4 to 5 leaves. My experience as it relates to pest management is I have significantly less or lower pest attack under the semi-protected structure. My major pests are leaf miner, worms, and some woolly scales from time to time. Once my medium is sanitized and I adhere to a good irrigation schedule, I don't have any major fungi or bacterial attack. I'm lucky to not have nematodes so far, and because of the ground cover, I have very few weeds. First picking usually averages around 7 weeks after transplanting. The hybrid 61, I would usually get 8 kilograms per plant, the Burmelo 10 kilograms per plant, Maldini 9 kilograms per plant. And there's a lot of room for improvement, and I suspect that will happen if I be more adventurous with my fertilizing regime, and I do intend to start using those simple fertilizers so that I have a little more flexibility. I tend to harvest the fruits when they're turning to ripe, and I have that luxury because of the bird netting. The flavor is significantly better when the fruits are harvested at this stage. The fruits are a little bit more tart when harvested mature green. So I just wanted to give a little timeline using pictures. This is a crop that I planted about 2 years ago, and I took some pictures. So the first one was planted on the 9th of August, and if you look at the dates, you can probably count the days in between. So the 13th of August, this was the size of the plant here, and then the 18th of August. So you're seeing within about 9 days, you have significant vegetative growth. On the left, my left, 21st of August, then you have flower emerging on the 22nd of August, and then the 29th of August. And what I probably should have done is how many days post-transplanting. And this is what happened in September. So clearly my pruning lapsed with this crop. I have a lot more leaves than I should have here. But if you look at the fruit set, this one is Bomelo and significant fruit cluster. And 30th of September, which would have been about 7 weeks after transplanting, I have fruits turning. So I also do some open field production, and I thought it would be good for me to just compare my experiences with the two. Of course, the cost of production for semi-protected tomato growing is significantly higher, but my experiences during the cost of the crop, during the period of the crop, the term of the crop, the expenditure is significantly lower because you have less pests to contend with, your labor cost is significantly lower because under my shed, because of the size, I just have one person, myself, dealing with the crop. In the open field, the advantage is, of course, it's scalable. So, your cost of production could be compensated with the yields over a larger area or more plants. Under the semi-protected structure, you have a higher yield per unit area and reduced pest pressures. While the labor required is less, the skill level needed is a bit higher because, you have to be very diligent and specific with your fertilizing. You have to ensure that you prune well and you trellis carefully. Of course, you have some protection from extreme weather conditions, and I find that your quality of your product is significantly higher. You have more consistent yields. You have consistent sizes. You have a significantly better taste of the product. Persons tend to rush the greenhouse tomatoes because in many instances it's the first time they actually taste what a tomato tastes like. You don't have to grade as much when you produce under semi-protected structures. I would, in subsequent crops, I'll give the plant a little more than 0.3 square meters to give them a little more room. And of course, stay on top of the pruning. I don't usually lower vines. And if I do, I would have the crop for a longer period of time. Again, I can't speak enough about the flavor, and the profits are way better than in the open field. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope I didn't go over the 10 minutes allotted. And thank you.
If there are any questions, comments as it relates to your presentation, just to be quick, one from here in Tucson and one from online. So any questions here from the audience?
One question.
Well, since you're the one, what's your hand?
My question. Yes, thank you very much for that. I have one question or two. Why are you your seeds coming from? Because Guadeloupe, Martinique, we have got kind of variety. The problem with Carotenia, we can go more Second question, how many plants you will put in your 250 square meter greenhouse into the it's your son of the greenhouse?
All right, so Donna, did you hear the question?
No, sorry. Could you repeat, please?
Right. So the first question relates to where do you source your seeds, your tomato seeds? The question came from a gentleman who's based in one of the French territories, Guadeloupe, and he doesn't have that type of access to the seeds. So he's querying where do you obtain your seeds?
Or the seeds can be sourced. Well, Hybrid 61 is readily available in Trinidad and Tobago. So any one of the agri shops or seed importers can supply the Hybrid 61. The other two varieties, I actually got that from a local seed importer. They imported it for themselves and they acquired the import permit and they did their research and they brought it in. So I could probably pass on that information to him if
Company?
What they have been told.
Or which company? Do you know which company?
Which company, which country,
That could be
are they from the USA, from
which country do the seeds originate? Which one is?
Hybrid 61 is a seminous seed. They are usually, and I think Guatemala. I don't know. Mr. Shah could probably help with saying where Hybrid 61 is sourced. I think it's Guatemala.
Yeah, Fiaz is saying Holland. So
Holland is Rixwan. Hybrid 61 is from the Latin America, right?
yeah, we'll get that information. It will be free as well. And just to cover the other question, it relates to the size of the greenhouse and how many plants it got to fit. What's the size to mention?
That's right, it's 250 square.
Yeah, 250 square meters. So how many plants can you accommodate?
I did under 204 square meters. I did 576 plants.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adam. Any other questions online? Okay. Right, good. So let's proceed.
Hello, Tristan. One question online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it in the chat or can the person open their mic and read the question? I'm seeing
Raynor
it.
Ramdiel. Let me.
So I'm seeing it. So how many pickings were obtained from semi-protected versus open field and how long the crop lasted? So question for you, Adana, how many pickings were obtained from the semi-protected versus the open field and how long the crop lasted?
I thank you, Tristan. I picked for approximately 4 months. And normally in the open field, I'm not as successful because I battle weeds in the open field and significantly more insect pests and micropesty bacteria and the fungi. So I am significantly more hesitant to grow tomatoes in the open field.
Thank you very much. And do note that we have a broader open session for question and answers later on, just to keep things moving. Yeah. So let's move on to the next presenter. We are looking to Ms. Christina Pula, who is our CARDI representative based out of Barbados. Her expertise lies in natural resource management, but she also oversees a broad work program with regards to production and its management. Today she'll be presenting to us producing leafy vegetables in a controlled environment, looking at microgreen production. So let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Christina Pula.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So let me try to stick within the 10 minutes for this presentation. Right, so to start, what are microgreens? So essentially, it's the growing of young edible seedlings, usually for herbs and vegetables. And in terms of harvest, the harvest period would be between 7 to 21 days after germination. These microgreens are generally high in nutrients and flavor and does have a high market value. Okay, so some of the benefits, we can have year-round production in a controlled environment. It does have minimal resource requirements once it's managed correctly, and there's significant reduction in pests and diseases because it's in a controlled environment. In terms of the setup, it's a very basic, well, it can be very basic to very elaborate depending on the size and the amount of production you're looking to do. But it generally consists of shelving units, sprays ranging from 5 by 5 to 10 to 20 in terms of size. The growing medium, traditionally you would use cotton mix, but other alternatives would be coconut core, hemp mats, silicone, reusable mats, as well as stainless steel mats. The watering system also varies. You can have manual hand watering as well as automatic watering systems. Weights are also used as well as thermometers if you're really have large advanced systems. The lighting varies based on your size and the amount of money you do have in terms of the inputs to purchase. Essentially, you use LED growing lights or fluorescent full spectrum lights, which are generally placed from 6 to 12 inches, depending on the type of microgreens you're producing. And tools for harvesting would generally be a harvest knife or scissors, and containers would vary depending on your market. So here are some examples of the layouts persons would use in terms of the microgreen setup. So the basic ones with shelving and the trays where you would use the bottom trays as a reservoir for water, depending on the stage of the microgreen, to a bit more expensive setups where there's an automatic watering system for misting and also for bottom watering at the more advanced stage for the microgreens. So here's an example of the actual layout, well, crop cycle. So starting with the growing medium, so you have an example of the hemp mats, the coconut core, and the silicone mats coming from left to right. These are the smaller 5 by 5 trays or the 10 by 10 trays. And essentially you usually need bulk seeds. So from 12 to 25 grams, depending on the size of the seeds and the type of seeds that you're using. And at that particular stage, the seeds should be evenly spread across the medium, and they're misted or top watered at that particular stage. Essentially, we're looking to mimic the same type of environment seeds would generally need to germinate. So we use some type of weight over the seeds to mimic it being under the soil. There's also a blackout period between 1 to 2 days, which would kind of simulate the seedlings bursting out of the soil. And once they are a certain height, they're uncovered, and that's when they go through the stage with the lights and they're bottom watered, depending on the amount of water that is needed. So care and attention is something that's really important in terms of producing microgreens. Generally about 1 to 2 cups of water every 1 to 2 days, depending on the needs of the particular variety. So here's an example. It's a little funny, but example of a microgreen growing guide. So for example, we have broccoli here, radish, sunflower, black oil sunflower seeds, which are some of the most popular microgreens that are produced across the world. And then it has advice in terms of the type of mediums which would be suggested, the amount of seeds to be used, the harvest period, and additional growing information. So with this particular example, you must pay attention to your particular environment. So this can be used as a guideline, but based on your practices and everything, you would develop your own guideline depending on your environment and the equipment that you use to set up in your particular area. On the far right, I have some of the popular seed sources that would produce microgreen seeds in bulk. as well as some resources in terms of manuals, troubleshooting for issues in terms of pests and diseases, as well as guidelines as to where you can source tools and so on. So for harvesting and package, care must be taken in terms of the timing and how the actual microgreens are packaged. Essentially, you must ensure that all of your tools are sharp and sanitized, as well as the temperature of the microgreens after they're harvested. So here are some common issues that growers are experiencing with microgreens. So we have environmental issues, which include excess humidity, poor air circulation, and inconsistent lighting. So as I mentioned before, you must have the lights at a certain height to ensure that you don't have the microgreens reaching for the light in any particular direction. So once that is noticed, you can always adjust the level of the lights to optimize the growth of the microgreens. We have dampening off surface mold and algae growth that can occur. So as I mentioned before, you must be very observant in terms of how you're applying the water and how much water you're applying, as well as the ventilation in the particular growing area. And some of the operational issues that can exacerbate these issues would be uneven sowing of the seeds, improper sanitation of the equipment and the growing medium, as well as the harvest timing, which can also affect the quality and the flavor of the microgreens. Here are some additional pictures so you can see how the diseases would affect the microgreens at different periods. And just to finish off, the effectiveness of microgreens. So we do have a low input in terms of there's no need for like a wide area for land, minimal water use, no fertilizer use, and it's a fast crop in terms of the cycle. We have, well, as I mentioned before, it's used in a small space, but you can get big yields. And in terms of pricing, essentially about 30 grams of microgreens at a retail price could fetch about $4 to $9 in Barbados. So there's a high potential for profit compared to producing crops in outdoor environments. And it does reduce waste. So for instance, if you're using the reusable growing mediums, you can wash, sanitize, and reuse again. Or, for example, the coconut core, that's reducing waste, agricultural waste, and contributing to circular economy as it pertains to agricultural production. Thank you. That's it.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Christina Fuller. Just quickly, any questions? Same protocol, one from the audience present here and any online. All right, so thank you once more, Ms. Christina Fuller. Very interesting work that's being done on microgreens in a controlled environment. Let's quickly proceed with the next presentation. Very interesting title, Developing a Production System for Sweet Potato in an Urban Space. And this is going to be delivered to us by Mr. Donald Jackson of Cardi. He is the Cardi representative for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He has a strong agricultural background, coming from the ministry, working with a significant number of farmers, and has been doing humane service so far with regards to thatching work in that country as well. So let's welcome to the floor Mr. Donald Jackson from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Cardi.
Thank you, Christian. Good morning to each and everyone. So this morning we just have a look at the production system for producing sweet potato in urban spaces, as we all are aware. Yes. As we are aware, that urban spaces are limited when it comes to space, soil, and workers, and the opportunities are tremendous in terms of saving of money, food and nutrition, recreational space as a therapeutic environment as well, and for recycling as well. And requirements would be things like sacks, 5 gallon soil, and a quantity of 220. And as you can see, the thing with sweet potato can be utilized for both the tubers and seed as well, so multi-purpose, and also for animal to be fed as well. Next slide, please. Now, from the planting material, we normally use the slips. We can also use the tubers to get planting material from as well. And most of the time, you tip 12-inch tip size and age about 3 months. And normally, preferably, they can be cured for about, we sort of have shown that curing slips for about 2 days, increase the yield at least about 20-30%. Next slide, please. Oh, next slide. Right, so in terms of plant nutrition, the NPK 6824 and any other NPK fertilizer plus some TSP, most farmers have the view that they do not need to fertilize the potato, but we have found that it is important that potato be fed because it is a very high consumption of nutrients, and we use a rate approximately at ounce 14 grams before planting at about 4 to 5 inches depth, and second application roughly about 2 months, 1.5 months after. And it was fat. Yes, sir. Next slide, please. Drip irrigation is very important because we are having a controlled environment and very highly efficient and minimize wastage. At least 1 hour every day is adequate for that. The sweet potato that is different from outside, you want to ensure the objective basically have a trellising system. So you have the naturals, vertical lines and horizontal lines for twining to keep the vines from running on the ground. So exposure to more sunlight is very essential. So we have there in terms of what 2,400 square feet area, roughly you can get closely about 1,000 pounds of sweet potato. And as you can see, sometimes the bags because of the site development start to blossom. Right. So thank you very much, guys, for the presentation there.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Donald Jackson. I'm not sure how many farmers actually produce sweet potato within a semi-protected or protected structure. So very interesting for us to be here today. I do note 2 questions here in the audience. You could take those questions.
No.
Just a quick question, observation. I'm very happy to see that you plant sweet potato on the semi-protected or protected system. Because this thing that question has been asked over and over, the type of crops that could or should be grown under these protected systems. The question I want to ask you is, what garden are you using? What is the variety that you have been using in your greenhouse systems?
Right, excellent question. As usual from farmers. Now, the member mentioned earlier you can use recycled material. So what we would have used, we use recycled flour sacks or feed sacks for produce these potatoes. And we had 5 different varieties that have been grown. Yeah. If you attend the session later on today, we will show you some photograph of those different varieties, the shape and the color and things like that. But notably, there's one record was my namesake coincidentally Jackson Vine, which is a very prolific vine. Oh, but in different locations, different countries, it will be same right.
Okay, you're not good. I've been told all the time to plant lettuce, pepper, tomato. Because of the cost of the greenhouses. Why should I plant sweet potato?
The thing about sweet potato, up to this morning I was looking at a Japanese documentary where this doctor, she's about 100 and something years old. And what he recommend for Asian people is sweet potato. Sweet potato, yes. Now, sweet potato in a sense that it is a dual purpose crop. You can consume both the tubers and you can utilize the leaves as well for nutrition. And as we go up, the amount of foliage you have in that area is far outweigh that of the lettuce and those other crops. So the biomass is much more, some utilization, I think that's all. If you have animals around, you can also use the prone leaf to as far as you want something.
So just to confirm and clarify, it is not necessary to have the top protected for sweet potato, right? Because sweet potato naturally is very resilient in our region. That was part of a drought study that was done, hence the reason it was covered. But more importantly, I think what Donna was trying to show the vertical production of sweet potato in the smaller space, he was able to get much more plants. So I don't want you all to get the notion that it is only it has to be produced under a covered system because naturally in Caribbean, sweet potato without cover does well. All right. So the idea is just to utilize the space. There's a much higher planting density than on an open field area. And as he said, you also have use of the foliage and so on.
Yes, maybe a comment. Is there any data on how many greenhouses are abandoned in all the areas?
Yes.
Thousands. Okay, so this would be a very good option for those to put them back into production because it's a home production. Sweet potato grows very well in hot conditions, so why not? Yeah, thank you.
That's just fancy.
All right, so we have one last question to the back of the room.
Thank you. Good morning. My question is, you mentioned fertilizer, right? And you said that potential to be. Has any study been done to use the animal manure mixes or anything else? How can we use an alternative to the synthetic fertilizer that you mentioned?
I'm glad that you posed that question because most folks now want to have conscious about the inorganic fertilizer and that's something that we'll get to consider later on. And answer that question. Yes. Something we want to do as well, yes. Comprehensive. Wow.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I want to press on. Let me take one last question for the judgment here as you went before, but we have an opportunity for a few questions at the end. Yeah, so please go ahead. All right. You mentioned that it was a drought experiment, right? Just asking if there was a control group and what was it compared to? What substrate was used?
Soil. Natural. So we use 5 buckets, what was 5 gallon buckets? For salmon.
Where were the instruments?
Yes, it's a way.
Where instruments?
What's it called? Orange.
That's a very good soil.
Yes.
All right. So,
yes.
So I'm glad that there's a lot of interest in this particular presentation because it builds anticipation for our next technical event, which is actually on sweet potato, building climate resilience and food security. If you want to hear a bit more about that, please stay tuned after lunch right here for that session. That said, let's introduce the next presenter. We will go ahead with Ms. Bronte Tucker, who is our CARI representative for St. Kitts and Nevis. She is going to present for us an overview of greenhouse production in St. Kitts and Nevis, which will then take us into farmers' perspectives, producers here utilizing protected structures right here in St. Kitts and Nevis as well. So we can have them run back to back, please. So, Ms. Tucker.
Morning. Good afternoon. Sorry, we started the one and I run over to the afternoon. Right. So, as was mentioned, my name is Bronte Tucker. I am the CARI representative here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I will be presenting an overview of protected agricultural systems here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, greenhouse production here in St. Kitts and Nevis is hindered by high initial investment costs, lack of financial support, and limited technical expertise. As Mr. Melvin Medina would have mentioned earlier, some of the greenhouses are abandoned, right? So presently here in St. Kitts, approximately 5 greenhouses functioning, while in Nevis, approximately 15 functioning greenhouses. Yes. Greenhouses in St. Kitts were donated to farmers by government or funded projects, while in Nevis, several farmers would have invested financially into their own greenhouses. Great example, Mr. Paris here, and you will hear from him later on, and you will also see pictures of his greenhouse. So, FAO usually does training with the farmers here in St. Kitts and Nevis. This is a training that was done in December of 2024, and Mr. Melvin Medina would have carried out this training with technical staff from the Department of Agriculture and also farmers from both St. Kitts and Nevis. So in this training session, FAO would have donated sensors to several farmers. We have Mr. Lee and Anthony here testing out how to use the sensors. These sensors measure light intensity, soil moisture, humidity, temperature, pH, and carbon dioxide in the greenhouse. So this is one greenhouse. You would have seen an earlier picture of this greenhouse from Mr. Medina presentation. Here the crops are about to go out of cycle. So this is the greenhouse where he spoke about the shading and everything like that. Right. So this greenhouse is owned by a female farmer, and she would farm directly into the soil. So here, Mr. Lee and Anthony, this is the first time he would have planted in greenhouse. He usually does crops in between his coconut orchard, or in between his coconut trees. So he has here pineapples. But this is the first time that he would have planted in his greenhouse. He did sweet peppers, right? He had 990 plants, and he got approximately 5,000 pounds, about 5 pounds per plant, right? This is a farmer in Nevis also. He is Mr. Mackie Truss. He has 4 greenhouses on his farm, right? He usually main crop lettuce. His main crop is lettuce. He does also kale and cucumbers. But sorry, he weekly a production of 1,200 to 1,500 lettuce heads. It's a family-run business. He does his own seedlings, well, his wife will be seedlings. This is how he irrigates his seedlings. He submerges them in water. He doesn't do overhead sprinklers. Right, and this is a picture of Mr. Harris here to the front. This is his greenhouse. It's always very clean. It's 2,400 square feet, and he does weekly 375 pounds, right? So he does different lettuce, and he makes them and packages them by himself. Right? So Mr. Paris this morning at the opening ceremony for the Open Agricultural Open was awarded the FA Award of World Food Day in Sweden. He just informed me about this morning, so I have to organize it. Right, so this is a picture of his fertilization system. So challenges that these farmers face, normal challenges from any production system, you know, insects, disease, right? Normal thing. Also sourcing of planting material. Technical challenges also, pump issues, you know, a lot of different challenges. So I'll give them the opportunity now to talk about their benefits that they would have noticed different from the outdoor planting to the greenhouse planting, and also small challenges that they would have faced during their production system. Oh, before I do that, I have a video. You could play the video for Mr. Makicha.
Thank you very much.
I'll have Mr. Anthony first and then Paris.
Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Brian Anthony. I'm a crop farmer. I do outdoor crops in which I do what you call ground covers, which is the modern techniques, along with drip irrigation system. When I plant outside, I plant in one hole because of the ground cover. But to every crop, I use compost or manure to help build back the soil. Because we know fertilizer do not build the soil. The manure or the compost put more organism back into the soil. Comparing outdoor with indoor, I find the indoor is a more efficient quality yield going forward, in which we know it's much more work, we have to be much more discipline, in which I receive training, go to workshops, seminars to sharpen my skill. Going forward, I feel like the shade house, less space and good produce much more better yield. Thank you very much. That's security, our number one priority in CP and areas.
Good afternoon. Richard Paris from Legal. I just took up farming in 2019, no prior experience in farming. So much training was needed for me. I would have paid for consultation in order to train in my system and my crop that I chose, which is leafy green drainage. So I have a small greenhouse in my backyard. So I'm a backyard farmer. Just 30 by 80, but because of the system that I chose, the capacity is about 11,000 plants. So I harvest a little over 2,000 heads of lettuce weekly. So we process the heads and we sell loose leaf only. So with the help of technology over the years, including sensors that Melvin mentioned on the FAO, I was able to get my yields from
about 700 pounds a month to 1,500 pounds a month. So over a period of time. So we use forced ventilation, some forced ventilation. We also use sensors, we use a recirculating system of nutrients. And to answer the question, a lady had a question earlier about hurricane protection and all of that. I would recommend for anybody looking to go into it to go with a heavy gauge frame and something that the sidewalls are easy to be released so that the hurricane will send blow through system. Push up the skeleton, there isn't really much damage to expect to the structure. So just one thing to note. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I think we need more promotion like that for all of our farms so that they can get visibility and others get the encouragement that they need to enter into farming. That said, we now approach the question and answer session. I know that we have gone past our end time and persons are looking forward to lunch. So please, if you do have questions, let's keep them very pointed and we do look forward to answering.
Good morning. Good morning, Randy Elliott. Good afternoon, Randy and Director of Agriculture. Just a comment that I'd like to share this morning or this afternoon is that what I've realized, a lot of the answers to our problems are here with us within the region. And all of us would have had some experience when we got into protected structures where we bought everything wholesale. And all of us would have done some sort of adaptation, like the young lady from Tobago, she realized, okay, it's happening, it's humid, so she go without walls. We need this without did our adaptations and so forth. And coming out of this session this morning, what I would like to see going forward is for us to continue that linkage in terms of sharing experiences. Because it's very challenging sometimes when we try to bring new people into the sector. And without sharing experiences, you then to have these big investments and the results are not there. And then sometimes you realize they have to be trimming off things in order for them to get results. So that's money going around the journey in terms of all these things, rather than taking that money where they could actually have an increase in terms of square footage within the area. So it's just something that we like us to do going forward. Our friend from Guam realized that when he spoke on Monday in terms of number of houses in Guam, I was very surprised because I would expect a island like Guam would have been. But it clearly shows that it doesn't matter which one the territories that we are from. All of us have some sort of challenge, and it's also continue to share our knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Let's build a community. Yeah. So any more questions from the audience or online? Ms. Morris as well.
Nothing online as yet, thanks.
Okay, pretty much. I just want to say that because of the radio session, we're informative. One meeting next session. Can't forget what I don't see. What you have 1:30. Okay, welcome to yes. Okay. So that's very interesting session.
Yeah, the session on sweet potato will be one that you won't want to do.
Because there's another problem. And worse, we build. There's other things to do.
Great, so I'll leave it at that. What we could do is wrap up since we have no questions online. And thank you very much. Thank you to the presenters for sharing their expertise, knowledge, and experience. We appreciate it very much. Thank you to the audience as well for your participation, and thank you to the farmer for sharing your knowledge, your insight, your experience, and some tips and tricks as well that we could take on board. So thank you very much. Thank you all. See you in the next session at 1:30.